We have begun recording. Michelle, take it away when you are ready.
I'm always ready. I've never not been ready. Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Perez. As always, my buddy Jake, absent buddy Ruben, and of course, Eliza Gager.
I'm not a buddy? What the fuck?
Well, no, you're a long
It's
time
an
friend,
honor.
and
It's a
and
position of honor. You're like, a working and known human. Me and Ruben, scumbags.
You see, all right, Eliza, for anyone that served in the military that is listening to this, you can recognize, me, it doesn't mean you're any less of a friend, but we came up through different posting wars. Our posting wars define us as posters across time. Of course, we posted on a webcomic forum. You posted on something awful. You were a goon. It's not even, they're not even comparable in terms of I guess scope and action and well, in some ways their effects on the world. I think one of the people killed in Benghazi was a goon. You don't get that with Penny Arcade people. So
Yeah, I don't think we have that far of a reach.
you have
No,
like some
and that
used
is
to
why
post on that forum.
the goons really looked down on all of the other forum denizens. We really looked down on E-Bomb's World and Albino Black Sheep, Penny Arcade. We thought you guys were losers.
Well, yeah,
we have had a lot of people enter video games. In my case, comic publishing, but at the same time, there are internecine problems within that board and mentalities against the mods, as all form denizens have formed a very hate the mods sort of atmosphere with any mod ship. There are few loved mods, and yeah, it's that's the buddies thing. That is literally my clinical view of it. We are buddies. Yes, we're all friends. However, that is how I pathologize my buddies from the posting war. And speaking of unique forum relationships, relative to a shared interest, one of the most deeply interesting and Coen Brothers esque of things I've come to look at once again. Eliza, DIY medicine is on everyone's minds right now. There are shortages of fucking for folks that have diabetes. So help me
insulin.
God, insulin. There are people.
I'm not God, but I'll help.
People are producing what they can in the safest amounts they can, all the way to trans people with their DIY HRT that oftentimes comes under fire and has a sort of mimetic quality that we've seen. I think we're a little unstuck in time, but I guess if this is coming to you currently, you may have noticed this happen about a month ago. And for whatever reason, people don't feel as though their needs are being met. And this extends to all things, not just, clinical use drugs that prolong life or improve quality of life. Sometimes that's recreational drugs. And I'm using air quotes for recreational drugs here because this goes into some fucking new territory for me. Eliza, please let loose the juice.
Thank you for that intro. So a little background about something awful. I have been a goon since 2006, probably, which for the really old schoolers, was not a respectable reg date. Reg date is considered a ranking system on something awful. 2006, when I signed up, was, bullshit. Now I think it's fairly respectable. I still have an account. I have an active account. I've never been probated or banned or anything. And that's because I just didn't post much. I am not a person that you ever would have heard of on something awful. I did get some posting uh, notoriety, but that was from a splinter forum from Something Awful's laissez-faire subforum, which was closed by Lotax under the pretext that he received a visit from the Secret Service after somebody posted a thread saying, I believe the title of the thread was verbatim, I am going to kill Barack Hussein Obama, President of the United States, and then went into details about using like a surface to air missile or something like that to take out Air Force One. This is off the top of my head. If I'm inaccurate about this, I'm sure some goon will correct me. It turned out later that the Secret Service visit, which became infamous, was probably entirely made up by rich low tax Kyanka. So laissez-faire was closed. It split off into two splinter forums. One of them is still active. It is called the Rhizome. Yeah. That's the evil one, and the good one is a forum that is unnamed. We're not supposed to talk about it. I'm actually breaking a rule right now, but we definitely don't say its name. And I don't know if it's still active because I don't post there anymore. But once I was posting there, I started getting into activism. That was during Occupy. So those are the first few times I got tear gassed. And, every successful on the ground activist has 10 people supporting them, sending them material support. We had people sending us stuff from wish lists. We had people sending us, and these were all goons. We're just, materially supporting activism in Oakland through sending us gas masks, doing research for us. It's when I started doing street medicing. So, the interesting thing about Something Awful is that there are a lot of good endings for Something Awful goons. There's something about the place that it's just a good balance of Wild West, old school internet shit, and I gotta say it, decent moderation. There's something about the infrastructure that can sometimes come up with some good shit. But that's not what we're talking about today.
Yeah. This is
not the Good Indians podcast for goon experiments.
I mean, just for a brief aside beforehand, like some of this stuff veers into almost urban legend territory.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Sure.
some sort of rope swing of death.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what the Snopes is on that.
Are you talking about the goon zip line?
The goon zip line, yeah.
Yeah, Shell's talking about, I think, various.
Does that have a body
other...
count?
No, as far as I know, it was never
Okay.
used, not even to test. I mean, we could do a whole episode on the goon zip line. The goon zip line's a little more difficult to work on because the original post or the original thread was completely purged. Mm-hmm. So to do an episode on that, which I would love to do because it was certainly DIY. It was goons doing it for themselves. I would have to do some research and see if anybody has an archive because the original thread is nuked, and the best record we have of it was everything that was ported over into the Hell Dump thread, making fun of it. I mean, actually, it might have been Fiat. I can't remember. But today we are talking about one of the worst goon projects ever, which many of those experiments took place in a subforum of Something Awful called TCC, aka the Crackhead Clubhouse, which is where Something Awful quarantined their drug users. So the Crackhead Clubhouse was ostensibly a forum about, quote unquote, harm reduction, where responsible drug users could share information.
It's always based in harm reduction.
About the use and even acquiring of drugs of various levels of legality, with the intent of harm reduction. And often they did not succeed, as is often the case with drug forums. So
yeah, just imagine every guy you've ever talked to at a party that you didn't know that was clearly clearly wanted to do more drugs than were going on at the party.
My
And
my
like
near
all of those types of dudes posting in the same forum.
my nearest point of reference is just anecdotally here, a subset of Tumblr users that use the harm reduction model as it related to suicide attempts and self-harm.
Mm.
Woo!
Oh, sure.
Boy, howdy. You have never read anything as surreal as people trying to talk out how to safely attempt to botch a suicide attempt. That's how
Right.
big our fucking world is. But also
As
how
in,
small it is.
they wanted to make a suicidal gesture but not succeed. Is that what I'm?
How to not basically wound yourself deeply enough to like not actually die.
That might be harm reduction in a different sense.
Oh, so they didn't want to die, but they wanted to almost die. Is that?
I as I read it in the context within which
To
within which
summarize, yeah,
they were operating, yeah. It seemed very tenuous.
Tumblr
And
teens talking about the best ways in which to self-mutilate is what you're saying?
yeah, and I don't mean
Ugh,
that in a
ugh.
sensational sense. I
No,
mean
no.
like those were subcultures that would spontaneously basically explode on Tumblr. Not just the horny. Everyone loves talking about the horny, but the self-help and self-medication outpouring on Tumblr was a massive part of its
Oh, sure.
notoriety.
Well, the
Oh
common thread there
yeah,
is simply just communalism, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah,
these are not like Twitter, where it's kind of this open landscape. I mean, I don't know a lot about Tumblr, but it was very self-selective to some degree. So you ended up
Yeah.
with groups of self-selecting people that would all come together for a common interest, and the discussions that come out of that. And that's where, stuff like the TCC forum comes from.
right.
It's not just, hey, we're all talking about the same TV show. It's like, hey, we're all deeply into, frankly, stuff that you can't read a lot of like actual scientific literature about and stuff.
These
It's
people are doing science fiction to themselves in
Yeah,
a
a
little bit, little bit,
sensational way.
yeah, a little bit,
especially not at the time.
right?
I think this thread took place in 2009.
Hmm.
I think it
Yes, yeah,
started in October 2009. And certainly, I mean, I think there were you could access some scientific literature at that point, but it was not as easy. I don't think we quite had the infrastructure that we have now of PubMed plus
sure. No,
Sci-Hub. You
you'd have
know,
to be like in a college database or something.
exactly.
Yeah,
You need JSTOR access. I mean, when you're talking about a drugs forum, you're talking about people who are high and stoned, and these people are not great at doing that kind of fiddly nerd research. Um, so, I mean, where to start? Like,
All right.
I'm kind of a culture vulture when it comes to something awful because I was never a participant in any of this stuff. But because I have an archives account, and
sure.
you need a special upgrade on your account to be able to even see this stuff because it's old. I have
That's
an
very
archives
helpful.
account because it was given to me as a birthday present by a boyfriend I had who was also a goon. Um, so thank you to that guy, known as Ghost Bong Weed of the Samurai on Tumblr.
I love.
That
I mean,
sounds.
why can't we all go back to that? I'm so tired of having to use real names in social media.
Yeah.
Like, just want to be a weed samurai again.
I mean, that's our lot in life, really. Uh,
I do think the place to start though is just the idea of what these goons were doing is
yeah,
legally ordering drugs
like
that
Yeah.
were not
imagine.
yet deemed illegal in the United
Yeah,
States.
imagine in your mind, if you close your eyes, just the opening of Goodfellas, where Ray Liotta is being walked around in that very famous tracking shot, but instead it's like a bunch of foreigners with their requisite names, like Tommy, I don't know, Three Balls, etc. And yeah, like where does it all start? Where do they start handing out mind-destroying substances?
Right. So yeah.
Well, the title of the thread, Crackhead Clubhouse, Phenazepam. Any experiences? Parentheses, no vendor discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Forums user Forums user oh no not me, all one word, posts September 21st, 2009 at 12:59 p.m. I have a load of Phenazepam, a Russian benzo legal in the US, Canada, and the UK, and everywhere else, excluding Norway, apparently. It is cheap, available online, and reportedly very potent, but you can only buy it as a pure powder. It has a 60-hour half-life, and stories abound of people getting fucked up week-long blackouts by trying to, quote, eyeball a 1 milligram dose, which is about the size of a small grain of sand. Easy to mess up. I've always been a big benzo fan myself and an addict on and off for years. I'm just curious as to whether anyone else has tried it in, quote, normal or recreational doses. So that's the first post.
Yeah, that is our opening salvo. That is our setting the scene.
Dear
Right.
God in heaven.
Discussion continues from there. Some people start showing up who are going to become big names later, particularly Brew Cocky. Brew Cocky is is someone to pay attention to because he has an arc within the thread. User some pig, all caps, quickly nicknames it the Juice.
Yep. So that's where we get to the name of the episode and the name of what we'll probably just be calling it for the rest of the episode. As
Yeah,
nice as Phenazepam is to say.
Phenazepam.
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 Yeah, it's so funny to me that it gets called that because it's in no way like it's a powder ostensibly, but it's so wild that they call it the. Oh yeah, to clarify to listeners, by the way, the juice is Joose.
Yeah.
Um, like a sort of bad alcoholic energy beverage you would see at the gas station.
And
Or
I think that is because to do any sort of dosing that is not just shooting your six guns in the air,
Right.
you need to dissolve a measured amount into a measured volume of liquid.
Probably a very tiny amount.
Yeah, so most of them are using vodka Everclear. Later in the thread, they start using acetone.
Oh my god.
yeah.
And then once it's turned into a solution, a solute, you can dose it much more easily. So, I don't think water works. I don't think it's water soluble. I think you have to use an alcohol
Yeah, I would probably
or
one
or propylene glycol also works, which is
so
completely edible.
one factoid that I took from your Twitter thread about the subject is someone replying um, to set the stage a little bit more. It should be noted that a normal dose of phenazepam is smaller than a pinhead, takes roughly 6 hours to kick in, and can last from 60 hours to a month, depending on how much you take. 60 hours to a month.
Yes, and this is user Gaberghoul on Twitter, who I can confirm knows his drug shit.
Very cool. Very cool.
He since then, I mean, this thread I made in 2018, but since then I've gotten to know him a little better, and yeah, he knows exactly what he's talking about, and this is confirmed throughout the thread. It is in fact like a standard dose for phenazepam before you get into nightmare mode is like 0.5 to 1 milligram.
Right.
Which, if you've ever fucked around with a gram scale, you know how small that is. It's incredibly small.
And one thing to kind of get into too is like I don't have a ton of medical or otherwise experience with benzodiazepines. This is getting prescribed medically in Russia to people who have basically just general anxiety disorders. It seems,
Oh yes, yeah. A lot
which
of these
seems kind of
drugs.
wild,
Hmm. A lot of, I mean, well, that's what benzos are like. It's
which is fair. Yeah,
That's what
when
they
you,
were commonly used for, like, God, what, 50s, 60s?
sedations. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, they're still used for that. It's actually a lot harder to get them now, even for people who need them.
sure.
They are extremely beneficial. It is completely possible to use benzos responsibly. It is completely possible to use any drug responsibly. Um, no one in this thread manages to do it, I don't think.
Yeah, this is very much do the opposite of what these people do.
And part of it is that they're having to do their own compounding. So, but one of the things I found out when I was looking up the background on phenazepam is that it was responsible for at least one plane crash. Um,
Ow.
Crossair Flight 498 from Zurich to Dresden crashed 2 minutes after takeoff in the Swiss municipality of Niederhasle on 10 January 2000. 7 passengers, 3 crew members. It was a twin turboprop. They all died,
Mhm.
and they found in the pocket of the pilot,
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Pavel Gruzin's, they found phenazepam in a foil blister pack in his pocket, and they found it.
Holy
They found it in his
shit.
bloodstream.
Holy shit.
And this is a blackout benzo. Any
Right.
benzo can be a blackout benzo if you take enough of it, but it's really easy to do with phenazepam due to the
As previously, yeah.
yeah. So this is serious shit. And before we recorded this episode, I did a little research. Phenazepam is still not scheduled in the United States. It is still legal in most states to buy and use at home, and it's just not recognized at all by the FDA. Um, Under some states, it has been illegalized. For example, in Louisiana, where there was a phenazepam problem in Louisiana briefly. Since 2012, Louisiana has classified phenazepam as a controlled dangerous substance. I'm quoting from Wikipedia here. This ban
Sure, sure.
affects several products, some of which were sold at retail stores under the guise of air freshener
Oh my
or
god.
similar, containing phenazepam yet claiming not to be for human use.
That's the hustle right there.
This legislation was introduced after one such product, branded as Zanny and marketed as an air freshener.
Yeah,
God
Funky Notes,
damn
I'm
it.
sorry. That guy, whoever got away with that, I can't help but respect
It's a great hustle.
fucking rules.
Marketed as an air freshener, rapidly gained publicity as the subject of numerous media reports, attracting the attention of officials. Citation needed. The ensuing investigation effort, led by Senator Fred Mills and Louisiana Poison Center Director Mark Ryan, positively identified the active ingredient of Zanny as phenazepam. According to Ryan, chemical analysis identified the active ingredient as 100% phenazepam.
My God.
Now,
So, yeah, that's insane. I
so
gotta try these gas station drugs more often.
it's only illegal in a few states. I think Washington, you can still get it. I would never fuck with it. I would never
Oh, yeah,
touch it.
no. It's
Um, and I'm not a drug person. I was completely not touching any substances whatsoever until I was probably about, 25, and realized that I needed to really get into medication in order to try to treat my symptoms syndrome.
Mhm, mhm.
um and then I started to sort of start research chemicals and the big beautiful world of DIY medication. Um,
It's it's very funny to me that it basically just gets outlawed in the places where it becomes a problem.
mhm, yeah, 'cause
Like, you have
otherwise
to
you're just
imagine there was more than a few police incidents in Louisiana involving it that led to it being outlawed, right?
it's interesting you should say that because someone does pop into the thread a little farther down and says, "Hey, I was a drug cop in Louisiana. Let me tell you some
Oh,
stories."
that's right, yeah. Oh, that
Jesus
actually owns.
Christ.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that is someone who in this, in the dissection of this thread, I guess, yeah, reached out to you, Eliza, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so glad he didn't delete them. And yeah,
I have the little threader up
I
here,
put
yeah.
it on Threader, yeah, I archived it. So it's not a lot of stories. I wish he had told us more, actually. Oh, my link isn't loading. Come on, buddy. There we go. Yeah, it's not loading.
Oh,
I wonder if somebody took it down in the meantime.
I have it up if you wanna if I can read from it,
Okay, yeah.
just for
What
posterity's sake. So this
what's your
dude
favorite?
yeah, this dude is on here as, Kendrick Lobstar. um,
He's a big
which is
poster, isn't he? Doesn't he have
I
like
think so. Yeah, it seemed like he had
100,000 followers or
quite
something?
a few followers, like in the leftist Twitter circle, which is cool. So
Who?
yeah, the first one is the guy replying who to Eliza's threat. So this person was the cop in Louisiana, drug cop in Louisiana, who had firsthand experience with basically why Louisiana ended up outlawing this stuff. So first story is I rolled up to a house around midnight and a guy was zonked out of his mind on a riding mower, completely naked, trying to drive at full speed through his neighbor's front door to use their toaster for the bagged loaf of bread he was carrying. He claimed he took, in quotes, like a spoonful, which,
As we have established is probably
yeah,
like 100 milligrams, yeah,
probably
so
like 1,000 regular doses.
yeah.
Um,
Insane.
I mean, oh yeah, I mean it's pretty wild. He later said, in South Korea and Russian vacation kitties. So I guess it sounds like he may have been in the military at some point.
Yeah, I think he
Russian
was,
vacation kitties used to bring 50 tab packs and dilute them in vodka, which is what you
mhm,
mentioned, Eliza.
mhm.
Then they try to fight each other or climb walls, literally, and almost surely get beat to death by South Korean National Police's 5-foot wooden poles, only to do it again the next weekend.
See, that's the thing about Phenazepam is that you don't fucking remember what happened.
Yeah, apparently.
That's the big quote about it. This one of the amazing things about this thread and Phenazepam and in the TCC thread is that it was the origin of so many legendary drug stories that have sort of lived on in the popular imagination. And one of them is this quote that defines what Phenazepam is that everyone remembers. And this is something that gets quoted on, goons.txt and all that. Um, Here it is. As for effects, I have no idea. Lol. It's like the ocarina from Zelda and it teleports you to the hospital.
Uh,
Oh my god. That is that's a deadly song to play on the ocarina.
dear,
um
dear
I
God.
actually loved, like, as far as like summarizing it too, because one of the heroes of this thread, well, I don't know if hero is the right term. One of the main people in the thread
there are main
is
characters, yeah.
main characters, yeah, is a poster named Cascading Style Sheet.
Mhm.
And there's something about took my first dose on Friday. Now it's suddenly Monday. The rest of his posts I'm not even going to try to read because it's very haggard. But after the post, someone quote tweets it. It just says, "It's not Monday anywhere in the world right now." CSS.
It's so there's so much good
You're
writing
not.
that comes
You're
out of
so
this.
out of it right now.
It just beautiful turns of phrase. I the,
It's
the the
so
kinds of
good.
the kind of posting where you read this once and it's a phrase that
Yeah,
stays with you for the rest of your life.
I just
I
imagine.
I
Yeah,
wasn't even there. I wasn't there for this thread, and I
right.
still think to myself, it's not Monday anywhere in the world right now, CSS,
Yeah,
as a drugs thing.
I'm just imagining this person like literally checking the time zones
I'm
and making sure and being like, "Oh no, this guy's fucked up."
Yeah.
not to
Oh
bring
no.
it back to not to bring it back to Goodfellas, but in this instance, cascading style sheet. The more I read of this, is easily Joe Pesci from that film. He- Um, oh God, Phenazepam binges are not cool, and I'm beginning to dislike it generally. When it takes 30-minute row, write a simple sentence for some reason. While I was writing that sentence, I was thinking about the Chirac, our tear, if of an American father of a teenage girl, or Benjamin's pants. I think I also just had a hallucination of Will Burroughs' Ib NY bathroom.
Like, this is just
He's just saying that, like,
this
you,
he's literally posting through it.
just Joe
He's
Pesci,
having
like,
a
getting
benzo trip and
exceedingly
posting through it.
angry. He's just getting exceedingly angry, and it's like, oh, so you think I'm American father of a teenage girl? Wear Benjamin's pants, and just blood is running down his tear ducts.
Yeah. Um,
Easily.
he's His cascading style sheet is sort of the Not straight man. Is there a narrative term for
I would
a person to whom the plot happens and changes and like sort of demonstrates the damage of an event over time? Because he's not really the protagonist. He's not driving the action.
He's sort of an everyman, or at worst, maybe like a character actor that gets four scenes.
Mm,
yeah. He seems to
mhm.
be one of the first people to actually provide his own feedback too.
Yes,
Like
he's very naive.
he's a signal to
Um,
all the other people in that thread as
right.
to what they're in for.
Yes, he's just sort of a normal dickhead. Like he's not a good poster. He's not smart or funny or anything. So he's a good like litmus goon for the effects of the actions in the thread. And he provides a very interesting arc because his first posts are, you know, there's a lot of discussion early in the thread. Well, how are we going to take phenazepam? How are we going to dose it? Because just eating the powder will fuck you.
Yeah.
So we have to make a solution, but then the solution will oxidize and go bad if you're not careful. And liquid dosing is sort of a pain in the ass. So a lot of the goons make blotter. They, are liquid droppering onto blotter tabs and then taking it that way. So early in the thread, Cascading Style Sheet orders blotter paper from online with Che Guevara on it.
Oh my god. That's pretty fucking great.
And
Ah,
he
sorry.
has a little post where he dithers and worries, and this is before he actually starts taking it, because there's a lot of lead up and preamble as people wait for their drugs to arrive from the online vendor who's called CompoSynth. And by this point, CompoSynth is far out of business, so we don't have to worry about, spreading their name around. So
Right.
everybody's waiting for their drugs to arrive and talking about how to dose it. Cascading Style Sheet is very concerned about the toxic effects of eating inkjet ink. He's terrified.
Oh my god.
What if the paper that I'm putting my Soviet research benzo on poisons me, you
Oh my
guys?
god, that owns.
What do I do? Um,
I've always thought about ink poisoning when I'm
I'm tr-
in the middle of a drug trip.
there's a Mads Mikkelsen film currently out that I need to see called Another Round, where these guys basically agree to do a social experiment within their friend group about just becoming alcoholics. And
uh,
I kind of immediately relate that to this, in the sense that uh, the film, the social experimenting itself, is posting through it. The cascading style sheet posting through it is so incredible in scope thus far as a relatable part of it, insofar as it feels less like a pose that's being adopted, but here are the hours in which this sort of fucking up and slurring of text speech is going to happen.
uh-huh.
And that,
Right.
well, he got out of the warp.
Fucked up typing is wonderful because it is
It, yeah.
you can interpret it if you really work.
Oh yeah.
Um, so, Cascading Style Sheet finally gets his first doses, and he says, "Took this shiuf on Friday, maybe onita a few get or 10. I donor reminif, now a day leader, and I feel on other planet, track a 6 pod tea to settle down. Can't barley walk or anything. I can't have Gunfar or Dune Way thing. VC stuff with will wreck you and make thinking I just need freach air." This is quoted and replied to by forums user Kundalini Rinsing, who says, "Jesus Christ, don't drink poppy tea when you're on phenazepam." And we're talking about opium poppy pod tea, which was also sort of trending at that point on TCC. Especially if you've taken enough that after 6 days you're still so fucked up you can't even type. Stay awake, buddy. Is there anyone who knows you've dosed who can come in and check up on you? And the immediate next post from forums user Just the Tip is, "This thread owns."
I mean
Uh,
that sums it up.
yeah,
That's it.
That's
That's the two ends of this entire. It's literally people going, "Are you all right, man?" And then other people going, "Holy shit!"
Yes.
this
That's
man is dying.
right.
Yeah,
That's part of the culture of the crackhead clubhouse is that other goons will, when they hear something is going down, they'll come in off of other forums to watch.
yeah, yeah,
Some of them are pretty ghoulish about it too, because it's, obviously some of the people in the crackhead clubhouse have genuine addictions. They have genuine problems. And that forum has a body count. It probably has a higher body count than any of the other forums. Um, Famously, from the heroin thread, I believe, uh, one goon was found dead in his car, and he had OD'd and passed out in his car in a really hot day, and he literally just melted. And somebody found him and then made a post about it on
Oh,
TCC.
I do remember hearing something about that
Yeah,
at some point.
there are a lot of legends. So I mean, even as we are laughing at these people, it is, of course, I have to acknowledge that it does actually cause real harm as well.
Oh, I'm laughing at the sentiment. In terms of life and death. I don't know how comfortable I feel or arguing out or litigating sometimes the value of life and death, especially lately as this has been recorded. Not to say that we have a weird skew of it, but I don't know.
Expand on that.
All right, I feel like sometimes we oftentimes have this view of how we value life versus actual outcomes.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's a certain level of public posturing you can do about the value of life, but I feel more and more that it's being devalued past the point of our ability to both reckon with and affect any sort of definitive change. For example, wars, or more recently, the pandemic.
Yeah, I
Good
was gonna say
Lord,
that's a big example.
as everyone uh, in a large scale sense tamped down a lot of expectations. A lot of expectations have been permanently lowered. I do think life is good to value, but like, oh man, does this specific slice out of time fucking illuminate this a little bit more for me? How crazy and incongruous it's become. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm
I
not black pilled. It's just wild.
For me, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I have two things that two parts of my personality that respond to this. Part of it is, if I died in a stupid or funny way,
Mm-hmm.
I would want you and all of the rest of my friends to fucking roast me.
I
That
feel similarly.
to me, that is one of the ways in which a death can be not wasted. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I hope the way that I die is funny or ironic in some way. I would love to be like eaten by a cougar, or I don't know, hit by an ice cream truck, or poisoned by clown makeup or something. That's funny to me. I want my funeral to be a roast, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um Part of it is cuz I'm autistic and I just don't have a lot of time for that kind of sentimentality. It sort of makes
Mm-hmm.
me feel physically ill. I don't know, it's just how I was raised. My parents are like that. They're very they're not they've been talking to me about their own deaths and the deaths of potential deaths of people around us for a long time. It's just been part of life.
Mm-hmm.
Um Maybe I would feel differently if I had a friend who was someone who had died or been seriously injured by an addiction, but um
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I think that's I think you'd map that a lot to the human condition. Like I I have things in my life I value a great deal, and I'd be lying if I didn't say some of it was just uh sometimes on the premise of a friend had died relative to it that I feel strongly about. Uh but beyond that, also like the deeply personal where it's like you firsthand. Uh which is weird. I've never felt like that in terms of like addictive personalities. So I mean, And also sardonic humor just as a way of coping. I wouldn't come out against that in any way.
Absolutely.
I think
Yeah.
a quasi healthy thing has been injecting a slight polite amount of agreed upon transmisogyny within friends and friend groups. Like I was saying in private to friends that we need to really bring fag and faggot back, and
Agreed.
I'm a proponent of like it as an affirmative,
Hey,
but I
it's
Mhm.
in the
also
air.
I
It's been in
believe
the works.
I've been believing also that like you need to turn it on its head. I feel like I need to use fag or faggot in the pejorative against people that are in no way connected to the gay experience. It would just
Mm.
be something I almost exclusively used with heterosexuals. Uh, like,
You gonna start yelling at people on Fortnite and Apex?
Mhm.
no. I mean, think of the things you free yourself up to. Uh, Instead of like using faggot for intrapersonal internecine beefs within your LGBT circle, you could just be like, look at Ted Cruz in that Hawaiian shirt next to the butter cow. Jesus Christ, look at the jowls on this faggot, etc. You wouldn't be like
Listen,
fat
I was
phobic.
called I was
He
called
just
that
looks
enough
like
to feel
droopy.
fine
He looks
taking it back.
he looks
Um,
like the fucking Rockefeller explosion. Yeah, like you
yeah.
can you can you could sort of politely use sardonic stuff. I feel like if people some academics and activists absolutely abhor the use of the word queer, but
Mhm.
they haven't like fully went all in and say you can never use this. It's just like, hey,
Yeah, it's
I've been
like
around when they were using that shit and hitting me in the head with the baton. I don't want to hear
Mhm.
it.
yeah,
Then
it's
I'll be like,
understandable.
yo, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
shut
Right,
my big
they
trap.
don't come knocking on other people's doors.
But
And other
yeah,
people find that to be an affirmative, inclusive term, and they're
For
right
sure.
too, you know?
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Within the goon sort of mindset or headspace, like did it always maintain at this level the engagement with the drug stuff, or did they eventually nuke this fucker from orbit? Is it still
I
around?
Phenazepam or the
I
subforum?
think
The
just the TCC
TCC.
forum, yeah.
TCC is still open and active. I think that this thread, the heroin thread, which charted, many users coming in and being like, "Hey, I've always wanted to try heroin, guys. What's it's like?" And then,
Yikes.
30 pages later,
Yeah,
they're like selling their car and shit. Um, and then there was the very infamous opium pod, poppy pod tea thread, which sort of led into the heroin thread as people
sure.
started with poppy pod tea, which you used to be able to just order from eBay for quote unquote flower arranging.
Mm,
Um, and it was very cheap and it
mhm.
was legal. And you would put, 8 poppy pods in boiling water, or some people did alcohol extractions. I'm not an expert
Sure.
on this. But some people, and this is, I have done some research about this. This is very genetic. It has a lot to do with your metabolism. Some people can pick up and put down heroin on a weekend and it's not an issue.
Mhm,
Other people have poppy pod tea 3 times and they'll go into withdrawals. It just depends.
mhm.
So the people who tend to be very experienced with drugs are the ones who usually get a lot out of drugs, uh, which I don't. I have one of these metabolisms where shit can't touch me. I think I could probably make money in an underground betting ring where I was just slamming heroin.
Eliza
And
eating an entire, like,
absolutely.
fold of LSD tabs and just staring a Russian man straight in the eyes.
That's me. That's what I wanna do because I can do it, stimulants I'm sensitive to, but, so it's all has to do with metabolism. A lot of it is individual, metabolic enzymes. The CYP enzymes is a big one. So CYP34A and CYP2D6 are, I think I'm getting that right, but if I'm wrong, I'm sure a biochem person will correct me. Those are 2 of the major ones, but there are, I think, a few dozen of those enzymes, and they are controlled. How active they are is controlled entirely by genetics. So, for example, there's a good 10% of the Caucasian population who have faulty CYP2D6 enzymes, and they just either won't metabolize or very slowly metabolize a lot of drugs. Um, and this is one of the overlaps we get. You've probably heard that thing where redheads um, need more anesthetic because they're immune to it.
Mm,
So they have higher pain in medical settings because they're resistant to the anesthetic. Obviously, most redheads, not all, because the gene occurs anywhere, but most redheads in the world are Caucasian. So there is an overlap there of that gene. It's probably the CYP2D6 gene that we're talking about, and that's the same for me. I can take huge doses of opioids and maybe feel a little bit for 15 minutes and nothing.
mm.
Um, which isn't fun. But as a result, I never get addicted to anything because nothing ever works that well for me.
Right, right.
But
Good lord. Yeah.
It's like a
Uh,
superpower of sorts.
it can be.
yeah. Yeah. Not me. I'm different. I do, uh, I think the worst thing I'd ever done was basically something crack laced.
Mm,
And then what had happened was we were halfway through the final cut of Blade Runner. My
mm,
father had decided to like ask me questions about what I was seeing. And gotta say, tracking shots of flying cars going towards large pyramids using practical effects,
mhm,
pre CGI, uh, very disturbing, as
mm,
it turns out. But beyond that, no mushrooms. It for me, it allows a sort of voyeuristic quality. Hearing about this because this is like the hard stuff I
mhm,
sort of don't touch because of these stories. But then
mhm,
there's always this
Right.
tendency to wonder. And what's weird about Goons was this was like pre-Twitter, so their immediate
Sure.
engagement uh, versus say something like blogging or Blogspot, etc. Uh, like close close to instantaneous as we have a point of reference for Facebook or Twitter now. More so Twitter than Facebook because it's there. Uh, and yeah, it's just
The thread is the timeline.
the thread is the
Um,
timeline.
right.
mhm,
I was gonna say so.
It's wild. Um,
So the sort of midpoint as we're at here, like when do things like start veering off into the deep end where we start having more?
I ha
Oh,
I have a good selection for that I've had up for a little bit.
oh, let's hear it.
and
Um,
yeah, and Eliza, if there's
yeah,
any other
again,
anecdotes you have on deck,
this is from Eliza's thread.
I would like to say one thing before we move into the second act, and that is that people were so drug naive in this thread, because I think that we discussed this before we started recording, so I'm gonna risk repeating us here. User Henry Huxley posted, "Just ordered. Can someone explain to me how this eyeballing is done? No, do you use a solvent? Do you jam it under your eyelid? This isn't really that obvious for someone who normally doesn't take drugs with his eyeballs." So we have here a level of drug naivete where somebody thinks that the term eyeballing is
Right.
literal.
That is pretty incredible, actually.
So these people, our cast of characters here is not set up for success. Anyway,
like
Jake,
that
please continue.
that
No,
that
I just
that literally sounded like someone wrote it. It was like the Mad TV
that
sketch
yeah, no.
character.
That could just be like a fucking Arrested
Fucking
Development bit or
fucking
something.
Fred Flintstone ass. Oh my god.
You told me to eyeball it. Okay,
Told me to
so
eyeball it.
I think the sort of like whatever you call it, the pillar or not the top of the hill of the juice thread
The
is
plateau, if
a
you will.
yeah, the plateau of the juice thread is where um the height of it is a guy who makes a new account to post within the thread. So this is someone who ostensibly is a lurker, but could also have been someone with a real essay account that didn't want to, post from their main. Basically, they made a burner account, and the name of the burner account is "The Juice is Loose."
Wow.
Yeah. So the post that they make, this is not that far into the thread. It's still in like October of 2009. Has been lurking and following this thread since day one. Experience with compost stuff, which I'm not sure what compo is supposed to be a
He's
reference
referring
to.
to Compo Synth, who is the
Okay,
vendor that most of the people in the thread are ordering from. So Compo,
got it.
he's referring to Phenazepam from Compo.
Got it.
We're gonna.
All right. So yeah, you're coming in mid. We'll obviously mention you coming in mid, but all you've mentioned is talk about how all you've missed is stuff you can glean from reading the Juice thread, which is the insanity of a bunch of people trying illegal drugs on the internet by themselves. And what we're doing now is I'm reading a post of a guy who made a burner account to talk about his experiences.
Can you guess the name of the account? Ruben?
The Juice is Loose. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Well, as it turns out, Ruben,
Yeah.
the juice is
My
loose.
favorite,
Okay, we are officially recording again, though. Like, it's starting. It's not stopping.
Hey,
Ruben's
everybody.
in. Welcome
Alright.
back, Ruben.
Ruben's in. He's in.
It's
So
legal.
before
It's
we got
legal.
interrupted
It's
by
legal.
being joined by our
Can't interrupt the show I'm a part of.
wonderful co-host Ruben.
I can only participate.
This is my show.
This is my show now.
This
I am the
motherfucker is
captain.
coming in. Ruben, hot off the road from a road
Days.
trip. Welcome,
Mhm.
welcome.
Smelling like the outdoors.
Yeah,
He's fresh.
Yeah. So we were talking about this user who came on to actually post about his experiences from the perspective of, like, I guess not wanting to reveal his real account, or if he was just an actual lurker and decided that this is what I'm going to make my essay account for. Like, well, at a certain point, don't you have to pay to even
Yeah.
view the forums? Is that right?
$10. $10.
So this is a guy who straight up was like, "Oh, I don't
paid
want to reveal my
$10.
main account. I'm going to make a new burner
That's
to
right.
post this." And that burner, as we have previously noted, is named "The Juice is Loose."
I think
So-
he has to be a registered something awful user, because later in the thread they talk about how the Crackhead Clubhouse is not visible to public browsers. So I
Yeah,
think
okay.
that to see TCC at all, you need to be
You have to
logged in.
be in there. Yep, you got to
Right.
be in the $10 club. That makes sense.
So he's an existing user who made a burner to post this.
So his experience starts. It's great. The escalation is wonderful. He says, "I tried just a little and it was great. Slept most of the day. A few weeks later, Monday, I try a little more. I wake up Tuesday night with a broken arm from crashing my motorcycle in a parking lot. Walk 30 miles the wrong direction home in the middle of the night. Cop pulls me aside and was wondering where I'm going. Home, no ID, no money, no cell phone, but keys, thankfully. I fail a sobriety test as it is 30 or so out, raining, and I was cold shivering, so I think I got some leniency. Thankfully, he gave me a lift. Wake up Wednesday to an email that said if I wasn't in the hospital, I was fired, and my fiance's father called and said if I called her again, he'd get a restraining order. Now I find out that despite being in the hospital, I'm still fired. Learn from my lesson, folks. You will lose the love of your life, and despite being a week later, have no idea why. Lose your job, and in a month or so, your apartment. I have basically nowhere to go. Oh, you could IM me the 99-cent place. I'd appreciate it, or just want to chat. AIM is mostly null. That's his AIM name. He's responding to someone about getting more places to buy the Phenazepam for him. What a trip.
I don't get it. I mean, I don't know.
To be honest,
I don't know
like,
if anyone in the pod is this kind of drug user, but
No.
it is. It's like the ocarina from Zelda, but it teleports you to the hospital. Like, is that fun for people if you can't even remember the
I have a
experiences
question.
that you had, but they keep taking it?
what I can't imagine is going through all of this and then going, I better keep posting about it.
Right? Yeah. I
Wouldn't
don't.
you just like? I would just be off somewhere else.
So the question
Ruben,
I had was,
what
so these are all
reevaluating.
definite cases of people at least starting curious, even though they can read all these terrible things, having a terrible thing happen to them, and then keep going anyway, and there doesn't seem to be any real addiction to it. They're just like, just full board, just why not?
It is 100% gonzo fear and loathing style
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
It really is. It turns, people who were kind of stable and seemingly normal into animals. It's very weird. And again, I have to emphasize, this is legal. You can
Legal
buy
stuff.
it online and take it
Yeah.
today if you want
Yeah, these
to.
are not controlled substances in the United States.
Nope. Except individually by state sometimes. I think a few states have banned it.
I mean,
What?
I just wonder sometimes. Okay, to put on the skeptic hat for a moment, because I feel like at some point, how much of this is like documented phenomena versus, I don't know, some of the stories are so numerous in scope, and the fact that it's something awful also has that sort of quality where there is a certain type of bullshitter there too.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how deeply the body count is associated with it being notorious versus, is this person just bullshitting me? Like, that's a weird component. I think it's something I think about online a lot,
Mm-hmm.
especially with people that talk about social contagion models as it relates to many things. And then also when that wheel starts turning and like hitting a ground of real life, it's nuts. Good
Well,
Lord.
there is quite a bit of scientific literature about phenazepam abuse documented, mostly in Europe, because in Europe you can just buy it in
That's where it
major packs.
seems, much more heavily used.
Right.
Mhm.
And later in the thread, we do get into stories from Ukraine, which are unfucking believable. I mean, we can quote a little bit of it, but it's just it could be a fear and loathing length novel on its own. And there are also the stories, of course, from the Louisiana uh, military police, the drug cop stories, who, so there's independent confirmation that phenazepam does cause these effects when abused, obviously. And when I say that I am shocked that this is still legal, I do not mean to say that I think that any drug should be illegal, because I am against all of that shit. All this shit should be legal. I'm just saying, if you can't get fucking Ambien over the counter, but you can order phenazepam, there is an issue with enforcement, obviously.
Yeah.
So I actually, while you were talking, I thought, oh, that's a good thought, and I went to PubMed and I typed in phenazepam, and there's
Mhm.
tons of articles about phenazepam abuse in the UK. Phenazepam, the drug that came in from the cold. A review of medico-legal deaths in South Scotland between 2010 and 2014. So all of these are cited phenazepam
Absolutely.
articles.
The reason I bring it up is not to like actually undercut any of what you're saying. There's also like drug sensationalism,
Mm,
and I don't want to say misreporting, but stop me if you've heard the CBD weed candies being incorporated into Halloween handout, like
right.
shit. All of the alarmism. Obviously, you probably don't want to have kids having THC weed edibles, but the reach and controlled part of that has been changing a lot because of all of the pro weed shit that's been happening across the
Sure.
states right now.
There's also that forums thing of
Mhm.
wanting to participate,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
especially users like CSS, who, as I mentioned, was not, he's kind of a dickhead. He's been probated a lot. People don't really like him. He comes into the thread and he becomes one of the main characters, And I think
Absolutely.
there probably is something to him ratcheting up his doses and coming back to the thread and posting these huge posts that are completely misspelled and he's obviously in danger. It's sort of a Munchausen thing. You want people to pay attention to you. You want those posts that are like, you're gonna fucking die if you keep increasing your dose like this, because it means that somebody cares about you. So it becomes a form of stimming to go onto the forum, say, I took 100 milligrams of Phenazepam, dare me to drive, and getting that feedback of, you fucking idiot, you're gonna die. Because if nobody cared about you, right, they wouldn't post that. And it's also just attention, whether it's good attention or bad attention. So those sociological
There's
processes are not any different on a forum than they are in real life.
yeah, there's almost two types of kind of juice posts within the thread. There's okay, so I've distilled this with examples. There's one from Askaper 2.0. This is the first type of juice. This is the first type of juice post.
All right.
First type of juice post is a guy going, apparently I was more juice than I thought. In a college philosophy class, a teacher called on me and said, "Hey, Askaper," obviously, is just substituting his name. "Seems like you are writing a lot. What are you writing?" I then proceeded to freestyle Lil Wayne's a Millie for a verse and a half before my friends stopped me. Yeah, it definitely lasts a long time. So that's an example of like, I could see how someone would be like, "Wow, really? Like, that is wild to even imagine."
I did a drug and
I can't believe that would actually happen.
I did a drug and I became a crazy ass white boy.
Yeah. The other type of juice
never happened.
poster is this guy named Techno Allah. Techno Allah just said, "Well, last night I needed some trivial atom out of some box in the attic, and I stepped on the drywall and came crashing down into the bathroom. I guess put that into the negatives."
Didn't he do
Like,
another post where he kind of went through all the things that happened during his night and decided whether it was his fault or Juice's fault? Or is that a different
oh,
poster?
that might be a different person. I should try to find that.
Let me see.
Um,
I thought I just saw it.
I so much more buy that off the bat, the Techno Allah story of a guy being benzoed up where he's like, "I'm just gonna walk around my house and get some stuff done," and then just steps through his fucking attic floor without thinking about it.
Oh no, it's later. It's Goatmonger, something forum something awful forums poster Goatmonger. I believe he's the guy who dissolves his Phenazepam in acetone, aka nail polish.
Okay, yeah, right. Oh
Um,
God.
and then got mad at people when they said, "Man, don't eat acetone. That's pretty toxic." And I also made fun of him for eating acetone because it is pretty fucking toxic. But actually, the poster earlier who was on Twitter telling us about Phenazepam itself, I can't remember, Gaberghoul, actually did tell me recently that you can eat a fair amount of acetone and it's not terribly toxic, but it does taste fucking bad because they put a bitterant in it.
Yeah.
So I think the lethal dose is like 200 milliliters or something, which is pretty high. If you're just using it for droppering, I guess it's okay. It is a stupid decision to use just because it tastes bad, though. I mean, you can just use vodka or something. So yeah, this guy Goatmonger decides to mix it into acetone. His trip is not particularly entertaining. He just breaks his computer and does a bunch of stupid shit. But later, man, my computer is chugging. Sorry, give me a sec.
I'm just acetone. How do you consider that? Like, did you take it first and then consider, okay, this is the blue fluid thing that I can see in my house. Time to drink that and that specifically with regard to this. They feel like it'll have more efficacy?
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know.
I think it was genuine, like misunderstanding or miseducation about what he was supposed to use.
I can't remember exactly why he decided to use it. I think it's not, you can't dissolve it in water. It has to be some other solution. Yeah, I just completely lost that post.
I just wanted a solvent or
fucked up.
Googled how do you make drugs and found out that you use acetone for some part of the meth making process and was like, let's get it in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that's
Someone
Benny,
calls him out on it and says,
Mm.
"You did it. You're number 1. I should have expected it was a matter of time until someone thought drinking acetone was as safe as glycol. I don't even know how you got that down. Just thinking about it makes me retch." And Goatmonger says, "Well, back when my head was clear, I looked online all over about consuming acetone. The worst example I could find is someone drinking 200 milliliters at once and ending up in a coma and recovering after 5 months. As I recall, there's been little studying on ingesting acetone. Just don't ingest a ton of it. I have determinedly follow. I have determinedly the following from my first times. 1, falling out of my chair onto an empty container was half juice, half me. The chair was crappy. Part 2, where my roommate freaked out and ran upstairs to see me covered in flour, Juice's fault. So I think during this whole time, they're also trying to mix the phenazepam powder into flour to create powder capsules,
hmm.
but they're also compounding it in acetone. So the people who have ordered phenazepam powder from these online vendors have just covered their apartments with phenazepam powder, capsule machines, bottles of acetone and alcohol everywhere. Um, some of them are leaving bottles of phenazepam solution in like communal refrigerators, unlabeled, stuff like that. It's complete madness. He has a 10 item list where he goes down everything bad that happened that night and decides whether it was his fault or the juice's fault. And this guy, Goatmonger, also gets pulled over by the cops while he's on phenazepam, and they let him go again. I don't know how these guys keep getting away with it. I think there's some speculation that because the juice is an anxiolytic, it lowers your social anxiety considerably. Even if you're fucking high,
Right.
you can sort of smooth talk your way out of a lot of situations with a cop. You know, you're not acting like you're drunk. Um,
I'm imagining an entirely coherent person, like during the naked lawnmower scenario. It's like, we're gonna bash this fucking door in. We're gonna
Yeah,
do
no,
this.
I just need to ask him for some butter. He's not home. I gotta get in. I
We
gotta get in there.
a
This
whole
isn't
loaf
gonna
of
toast
bread.
it.
Yeah.
This
Yeah, holding
I,
a whole loaf of bread.
I might make French toast. We don't fucking know.
Yeah.
But
Is
let me
there
in.
We'll see. So here's a post that actually illustrates exactly what I was speculating. Alan Negative posts on November 1st, 2009. Lol, I have a glass computer table. I ended up taking everything off of it and spreading juice all over it, evapping and licking. Today feels like a Thuras day. So I was curious. I was curious and I looked up what day was November 1st, 2009. It was a Sunday.
Oh my god.
So people have no idea what time it is, where they are, what they're doing. Again, I don't really see the appeal of just total oblivion as a drug, but people fucking love it.
I mean, uh, I guess
Well,
I couldn't assume a first person. I'd say
yeah, comes down.
anecdotally or things that I've observed in other groups is that when they talk about this, they're they sound less like a fucking after school special and like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done heroin. Obviously hindsight is 2020, but like there is a certain appeal to self-destruction
Mhm.
uh
Oh, most assuredly, yeah.
in lieu of like personal enjoyment when circumstances are really bad or you're really alienated. I remember a great deal of the people that would be at the one call center I worked at. Everyone was below the poverty line. Like
Mhm.
trans kids working there, the punkers that were like fully leathered out and all of those goddamn metal studs everywhere. And you look at the dude's arms and it's like a fucking pincushion. Uh, like I would see these guys at work and then later on park benches. Sometimes, like one dude in particular would sleep it with a knife in his hand, and it sounds like reefer madness shit. But Eugene homelessness is so fucking wild. I don't know how it's been in the last 4 years, but when I was there, uh, like so many people there were fucking completely zooted and just earning enough to get to that point. And yeah, it's wild. I feel like a lot of this stuff should be decriminalized or just, I don't know, utopian vision outright legalized. Is like, I've seen capitalist coercion as it relates to this and having a boot on your fucking head, and like, you almost wonder if you made the choice yourself to do it. Sorry, but yeah, it's wild. That this is like weird. It's like the opposite of whatever Irish drinking culture is. This is like American doomer drug use. I want to be the smack my bitch up video constantly. Like, I want that to be my life. Is sometimes the headspace I get looking at this fucking thread.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I was saying, it's like the things that these forumers purportedly go through are enough for me to be like, oh, I would take a entire week off of life. But these guys are just getting back on and posting about it. They're just like very eager to. I like the way this drug use is built into their lives is pretty wild. Be able to just I don't know. I would love to know the spread on kind of who some of these guys were a little more, but it just can't imagine the guy who started on a Monday and ended up in the hospital on a Wednesday with his fiance's dad telling him to fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wonder what his plan actually was when he started that Monday. Like, clearly these people aren't expecting to go out for days, but they go into it knowing that's a possibility anyway.
Yeah, and mystery restraining orders pop up
Right.
a lot in this thread. There's another example a little bit farther down. Let me see if I can find it, of a story of a guy not on Phenazepam but on a different legal research benzo called Atizolam, which I have actually taken, and again is just a normal benzo if you're not getting completely nuts with it. Where he wakes up on a plane on his way to Colombia, and this is a Reddit post. Let's see. Yeah, the title, it's been posted in it's actually not Reddit, it's Usenet. It's a Usenet post.
Holy Christ.
In self.researchchemicals. Fuck Atizolam. Don't know how I ended up with a disorderly persons charge, maintaining a nuisance charge, and resisting arrest charge a few nights ago. That's the minor issue here with this bullshit drug. The major issue is I don't know how I ended up on a motherfucking airplane, all caps, on a one-way flight to Bogota, Colombia, 5 days later as I am typing this now. Where the fuck am I going? What the actual fuck is going on right now? I don't have my wallet, credit, or debit cards. Somehow have my passport, though. I used to fuck with benzos with heavy due to insomnia and anxiety. Doctors cut me off hence you have the RC market. See, he got caught up. He was taking benzos, legally prescribed. They cut him off, so he just started ordering them online,
Right.
and just going nuts with it because it wasn't provided to him in a medical setting. I maintained for a while without, and then felt like I needed to medicate due to how wired and work-related stress I have. Well, I do know this. I was slamming 20 plus milligrams of Atizolam. And again, I have to emphasize, Atizolam tablets come in 1 milligrams
So they're
in a blister pack.
grabbing fistfuls of tablets,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah. And 1 milligram tablet is about the size of a peppercorn. If you made a peppercorn flat, that's about how big it would be. I was slamming 20 plus milligrams of Atizolam solution a day for about 2 weeks straight. I was also drinking heavy and motherfucking huffing dust off. Disgusting, completely repulsive. I'm in sales, and the only good that came out of using Atizolam this last time is that I did 2+ million in sales in 2 weeks, which made me about 150K. But is that fucking cool? No, I don't even have a fucking suitcase with me. Also, during this 2-week binge of Atizalem, I destroyed relationships with every single person in my family. My parents got a restraining order against me. I lost all my friends, and it seems to be cocaine and hookers when I step off this stupid fucking airplane. Maybe I'll have a seizure. I don't really know how to handle it. Maybe I'll just hang it up. So he goes on to say that this is the second time this year he's ended up in a third world country wondering how the fuck he got there because of benzos. So, a mystery
Second
restraining order.
time.
Yeah, he did something so bad to his parents that he doesn't mention a bad relationship prior to this, that they got a restraining order against him. I think the drug just reduces you to pure ego. It removes all of your impulse control to if in
Surely.
certain use cases for certain people. It sounds like.
Right.
One thing that does seem to be missing from the conversation about this drug specifically is maybe the minute to minute physical experience associated with it,
Mhm.
where you're not talking about feeling and sensations.
Oh, sure.
This one seems to be pure outcomes. Whatever I did must have been interesting because I won't remember a one fucking thing about it. But it seems to be so intense that I have to keep doing it, which it doesn't sound unique amongst drugs, but it sounds like long-term abuse and high volume. But this is the complete opposite. Like that outcome comes from like minuscule use of it almost. It's so weird.
Some of this is probably, goons egging on other goons just to see who gets the best story out of it. That's certainly part of drug
Mhm.
culture in general, because it's
Mhm.
one of the reasons you take drugs is to have a good story about it. And so, some people do comment in the thread that they're using it too, and it's not ruining their lives. Forums user B Nasty says some people must be taking far more than they think. I took 5 milligrams last Sunday, and besides discharging a fire extinguisher in my basement and shooting an old monitor with a BB gun, I'm no worse for wear. No cops, crashes, or job losses here. Gonna try another 5 milligram tonight and catch the train to Philly.
I gotta say, comparatively, that guy probably sounds like he had a fun time.
Yeah, he's just chill.
I mean, yeah. Hillbilly wise, it's not uncommon to, if you've ever lived in the backwoods, get drunk and start shooting guns.
Mhm.
Shotguns. I don't advise pistols. Don't know why you'd want to use a pistol, but it happens out there. But yeah, mainly throwing stuff in the air and shooting skeet while drinking beer and fucking awful music that sounds like it will play during Halo. This is all on the table. It
That's an
doesn't sound that
American
wild.
tradition.
Yeah. I what how does some of it like darken? Because I feel like in order to get this across in terms of 3 act structure, I feel like we've kind of went over many outcomes. Like where do you guys want to take this fucking trade next?
Well, I would like to say that one of the most famous posts that comes out of this thread comes from a user called Shasta Orange Soda.
Mm.
Um, and I will quote myself here. This post, in which Shasta Orange Soda takes so much juice he tries to buy a baby grand piano, went down in TCC history and became the new standard by which to measure how fucked up you can get. So this escaped this thread and got into other parts of the something awful culture where someone would say, well, I was really fucked up, and someone would say, did you try to buy a baby grand piano? um so here's the post. This occurred on October 13th, 2009. Mid-October is about when things start to kind of get set up for the third act. Oh Jesus, I had exactly 2 beers with some eyeballed finaz on Sunday night. All I remember is hanging out with my roommate, listening to music and playing video games. I don't remember this, but I woke up from my benzo sleep for a little while on Monday morning, 8:30 according to my computer, and went on eBay. I used the buy it now option for an Apple 3GS 16 gigabyte unlocked jailbroken iPhone for $700. It looks like I didn't pay for it though, or maybe I tried to and didn't have enough in my account, so I'm going to try and get out of it. Uh, iPhones are sort of cool, and it makes sense that I'd want one, but I also placed a $100 bid on a Vose and Sons antique grand upright piano, and only lost because it wasn't enough for the reserve. I've never known how to play an instrument in my life, don't have room for a piano, and a million other reasons why that bid was a bad idea. Apparently, after placing those bids, I went back to sleep for another 8 or 9 hours. I really can't get over how supremely R-worded all of this was, and the topper is that the Phenaz afterglow lasts so long that I didn't realize any of this until 36 hours after it happened.
Yeah.
This post became famous. It's one of the all-time things that occurred on something awful.
I mean, listen, I've gotten high off of regular old marijuana and forgotten that I've bought things online, but this is this is something else.
Well,
Uh,
Assgaper, we were talking about Assgaper earlier. He started ordering medieval weaponry.
Yeah.
And he sent a medieval steel mace to his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend's apartment, gift wrapped, and had to contact her in order to retrieve it.
Fucking owns.
So,
You're not gonna believe this. Fuck.
here's what happened.
Yeah. Oh my god. The bow was excessive. Fucking
Yeah.
hell.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the DIY section. On October 16th, user Brew Cocky, who you might have remembered from earlier, he says, I've done some research, and if I can get just a bit more money, I can make thejuice.com a reality. Also, I love the idea of www.goo.se. The Juice.
Did you dot see?
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah.
So
Oof.
this guy wants to, he's not content taking these benzos at home. He wants to start dealing as well. And of course, goons encourage him to do this because goons encourage goons to do literally anything. And the idea of goons buying drugs from goons is apparently delightful. They love it.
This is the part in the drug film whereupon Dad Rock starts playing. Creedence Clearwater Revival immediately because we're going to make a business. Oh God.
And this October 18th, mid-October, mid to late October, cascading style sheet starts to fall apart. He does those posts about how, he's been, I think he says he went back and read all of his posts in this thread and doesn't remember making any of them. That's the point where he hallucinates William S. Burroughs in his bathroom.
One is want to do.
There is a lot of encouragement in these types of threads of literally anybody comes in and says, "Hey guys, be careful. This is a big drug. Watch yourselves." Will get shouted down by all of the other TCC users. For example, forums user Cavan posted, "Benzos and opiates aren't safe together. I wouldn't start drinking on top of it." Something Awful forums user Super Rad replies and says, "I've done it a million times. Throw some kratom in too. Why not? The key is moderation, i.e. doing a minimal amount of each drug. 2 milligrams Klonopin, 2 beers, 15 to 30 milligrams hydrocodone, and a normal kratom tea."
That sounds like that dude's like average weeknight. Holy shit.
I feel my fucking kidneys behind my eyeballs.
Yeah,
in terms
definitely some tolerance there.
But that is also, I'm assuming, probably characteristic of a good number of TCC posters and their kind of attitude towards drug use. Is like, just a little bit of everything. It's fine.
It's okay. You're not gonna shit for like 4 days. That's it.
Yeah,
it's an okay
I'm not
ride.
gonna wake up 5 days later. I mean, the grim aspect of this is that, Brukake, the user that went into trying to deal stuff, is the one person in the thread that we know didn't pass away from Phenazepam specifically, but who passed away during the period of this thread. And is just another example of kind of like, I mean, it is another point in this story essentially.
I was gonna say, could you let me read some of these? I'm looking at
Yeah, of
some of
course.
the Eliza notes. Meanwhile, Bukake, the goon who bought a domain and started dealing, has been missing since since that post about losing both his bike and his Phenazepam on the bus trip home to his mom's place after a disagreement with his dad. The narrative is thus: Drunken Lullabies post. Bukake probably shouldn't be posting about consuming Phenazepam in this thread when he's trying to run a vendor selling the stuff as not for human consumption. It occurred to me the other day that poor Bukake could have simply been a bit careless with his measurement station and inhaled a blackout amount, or spread it to his food, or any number of things. And then I realized that it's 99.68%, probably the other way. It begins escalating from this point. As soon as your vendors started posting about getting juiced up on a bus, you should have gotten very, very worried.
Yeah, that's the only person in that thread who makes any good points.
Cascading Style Sheet opines with, I'm pretty sure that Bukake guy is in some serious shit right now. Maybe dead or unconscious in a ditch somewhere. To which Tim Raines IRL replies, if Bukake didn't get home to his mom, I'm going to burn this thread to the fucking ground.
Presumably because he's bought in.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, several people chime in after he goes missing. They're like, "Hey, where's my order, dude?" Apparently, he got some orders out. He has a few happy customers in the thread. Are like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, good
Yeah,
stuff."
that's the instead of I mean that is their way of posting a remembrance to him. Essentially, they're like, "Hey, got my order today. You
Mhm.
finally did it," or whatever.
Yeah, November
It's
14th.
very dark. Yeah.
This comes, I think the people who are paying attention, of course, were expecting it, but November 14th, there's a post from forums user Hasienko, who says TCC poster Bukake has passed away on the 7th of November 2009. He was a good friend and he will be missed. His cause of death is still unknown and we are waiting on the toxicology. For now, it seems it was not foul play. If I find out his cause of death was something other than an overdose, I will post in this thread. And this is confirmed, and there's some posts of pretty tragic family stuff. But yeah, it seems like it didn't directly cause his death. It seems like it was a heroin overdose, but certainly it seems to be involved. I mean, you don't want to give a suicidal person something that removes his impulse control,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's this thread for this reply from forums user Dawn Danger. Bukake, aka Mikey, did deliver. Just as I was returning from the 7-Eleven, I see the guy from the post office dropping something in my mailbox. Godspeed, Bukake. Edit to add already dosed.
There it is.
Dear
So
God.
so that really puts the kibosh on the thread. I mean, the party is definitely over at that point. The mood
Yeah.
the mood changes quite a bit. So as people start posting that they're stopping and getting out, forums user Too Many Mans on November 14th says, came in here to post my story about how my ex flushed my juice stash because I fucked up so much this week that 2 friends staged an intervention. So I want to point out it's November 14th. This thread started in September.
Right.
And this is how long it has taken for people to get restraining orders, for their fiancés to, end them, for their people to stage interventions. It's unbelievable how fast that happened. I don't think I've seen anything happen that fast in any of these other threads, even the heroin threads. Because you're not just stoned at home. Like you go ape shit on this stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I think any of these stories sort of have a parallel to PCP use. And one very punctuated thing about PCP use and the mimetic quality it has, and where viral videos and live leak shit happens is basically because a not insignificant amount of people get naked and start doing incredibly volatile things and are
Mm,
very threatening and impossibly strong out of
hmm
nowhere. Which, uh, I mean, whether or not each and every part is true, it is part of the narrative of that. And with this, I think it's so oddly specific, like its point of origin. I I probably never would have heard of this particular method of ingesting something other than a a particular forum thread. Uh like observable phenomena wise, the only time I saw that on the news was like someone putting Windex in a strain of weed in
Hmm.
Saginaw. That was it.
Yeah, it probably has a lot to do with the fact that, as we've mentioned multiple times now, like these are people buying medical amounts of things and not having any proper dose usage,
Hmm.
and it's not like while I am sure you can go out onto the street and buy benzos from someone illegally, it's not like that's quite as common in drug circles, um, as other types of party drugs. So you have this very specific class of drug user that is, essentially, like we said, like they get funneled into the forums like this because where else are they going to go? They all want to talk to people like each other.
Right. They get their
Um,
drugs on the computer, so they're going to do
yeah,
their drugs on the
yeah,
computer.
they would never. They're not like going to parties with these drugs. They're doing them in their living rooms and having a blast in
Mhm.
their own heads. You don't need to go out when that's happening.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it is this very like this is the type of stuff that growing up, like I never would have heard about this type of drug use as a kid, even with anti-drug campaigns. It's not. It's simply not. Uh, what's the word? There's not enough of it happening anywhere
Yeah.
until we get places like this. Until we get little. That's why it's fun to talk about something like the Juice thread. Is it's so out of left field, compared to what we kind of actually know about, to what we're fed growing up through anti-drug propaganda, and to most of our, lived experiences. I frankly don't have many friends that were involved in this type of a world, so it is very, slightly voyeuristic to be reading this forum thread in a way that's pretty natural, I think.
For me,
Um,
I again, hillbilly. I was never that far away from hard drugs. Uh, the more interesting phenomena for me isn't that it's an outside looking in one outside of hard drugs, but it's also weird that I think I think there's like a type of person super into sex that is unlikable in certain ways. We call them sex nerds.
sure.
And so you would figure someplace like Something Awful would have its own sort of pathology of like a drug nerd, but instead you learn the same fallibility applies to everyone in a flat way when it comes to direct engagement with something. Like it doesn't like take away how much of a fucking nerd you are, but in this instance the flattening effect is immediate. There is no one that doesn't sound like a with the exception of the people that apparently have very heightened responses but only do shit in their own house. uh it feels very it takes you out of the picture. It's so weird. The
Mm,
intellectualizing on these threads sounds like someone going through the bargaining stages of death. It was actually half juice, a little bit of me, but that share was fucked up. And it's like, no, no. When we start getting to like having 4 to 5 to 6 on those lists you keep making, at some at some point, it's more the juice
it's pretty
than
much just going to be
all
the
of your
juice.
fucked up chairs.
Mhm.
It's going to be always the juice. And
I
good
think that
lord.
this seems to be a known drug in Europe. It does seem to be a drug that,
That is the other thing. Yeah.
is done in clubs and just for fun and is kind of around in a way that it's not here. Um, so one of the things that we sort of skipped over while we were, following Bukaki and CSS and Asscaper, is this poster called Underflow, who is in contact with a friend of his from Ukraine, and her name is Zena. Zena uh, had long conversations with Underflow about her experiences with Phenazepam, and somehow she got embedded with a Ukrainian EMT ambulance crew. And she related these stories just sort of as an oral history over the phone to her friend, Underflow, who transcribed all of them as best as he could. And he posted them in the Joose thread. And it was some of the best, literature writing that came out of this thread. It is truly fear and loathing type stuff. I can't read it all, obviously, but I'm trying to find like just a sample. Um,
I'm looking at
the
one right now.
Oh yeah, you've got something you like.
Oh, yeah, I'll let you pick yours.
Okay. So the ambulance crew is called to an apartment to pick up a patient who is having some sort of crisis, and whatever the emergency is not made clear. They're just supposed to show up. So they show up to what I imagine is a Ukraine, block apartment brutalist. Xena says, "You've never seen an apartment as filthy as this guy's place. He had a pig in there and 2 dogs, though they were all quiet and didn't bother us. There was this gunk on the floor that looked like a mix of dust, spilt food, booze, and animal excrement. The guy had a fridge covered in Esso stickers and a sofa cut in 2 to make 2 chairs. X, one of the ambulance guys, had another bottle in his hand, so I thought he was going to put it into the patient again. But Y pulled liquid from it, Y is the other ambulance guy, in a big syringe, and he and X took the guy's trousers, sweatpants actually, used for doing lots of sweating in, I think. They were the same color as the stretcher, which was described as a disgusting yellow-brown. Took his sweatpants off and stuck the syringe up his bum. I don't know if they actually diagnosed the man with anything, but I was behind on the stairs because I wasn't sure whether to get any deeper into the stink. Y said this guy looked like a troublemaker. Big guy for sure. So we gave him a double dose of Tip X, which is what they called Phenazepam. Why up the bum? Y said it was to show who's boss. So this is, I've read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and this is it. This just sort of insane continuing narrative of like Lemony Snicket style horrible things happening for no reason. She says earlier in the story that X, who drives the ambulance, never takes it out of second gear. He calls it combat driving. And there's just these wonderful little details about it all, and it goes on for pages. It's really incredible. We should put a link to someone has archived it on GitHub of all
Yeah,
places.
I have the archive up. It's actually neat. Yeah, it's just pure text, but we can definitely include that. I just love this little tidbit of they're going over a list of names for different drugs, and she says, "I'll give you the equivalent names because generics have different names here. You've got Xanax, Prozac, Librium, Valium, and what you call the juice." Apparently the worker who had it called it in his own language brain wipe.
Holy shit.
So we may not have the best nickname for this drug.
I was about to
It
say.
might be better once in other languages, because imagine someone handing you that shit and going, "Hey, take this."
Yeah. Again, every time we sort of undo another wrinkle, it sounds more and more science fiction-y to me. Not in that I doubt it, in that it so clearly exists and in such a pronounced way that you don't brain white versus the juice as a dichotomy that can happen internationally. I think one of them, Underflow, is the person
He's the
relating,
guy transcribing all of this. Yeah.
transcribing. So here's one. I transcribed and translated the talk from German dialect. And then some anecdotes about this. Italics are mine. Okay, listen. I promised them to not use this. They gave me the money back and all, for obvious reasons, but I really regret it. I had to tell boop and boop 4 times, and they wet themselves from laughing each time, so I'm sure I could sell it. All right, so these guys were going to let me sit with them between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. They had this old Mercedes lorry with a big bench in the front. I know it was an excuse for groping. Oh, sorry, hand slipped off the stick, blah, blah. But X, the big guy, at least 120 kilograms,
Well, that's racist.
never shifted gears, actually. Just did everything in second. In his words, combat driving. Oh my God. I'm not rereading what you read, am I? Or is it
Just that bit.
I just referred to it.
Just wanna let everyone know at home.
okay, good Lord.
Oh, sorry.
I got on just around the corner. Sorry. I got on just around the corner from what they called the multi-purpose emergency center, and Y joined us 2 streets further on. That guy looked exactly like the jealous guy in the Amelie Poulain film, with the laundry iron face.
Does anyone understand that reference? Does
He's trying to say that he looked like
Does she mean Amelie, like the movie Amelie?
yeah,
I think
in the
so. I don't know
Amelie
who
Poulain film
I don't know who Amelie Poulain is.
with the laundry
Oh, it is.
iron
It's
face.
called. That's the name of it in other languages. I think that's her. Yeah, I just googled that
with
shit.
the
Okay.
laundry iron
They're
face.
just talking about Amelie.
Got it.
X was
Okay.
like one of those American wrestlers with no brow and tiny ears. He said he was in the army, but the way he fucked up later, I wasn't so sure. Apparently it escalates from that point. But yeah, it's just
Sometimes, you got to be reminded that Europe is straight different.
yeah.
It's different over there.
Especially the Eastern Bloc, like
Of course, yeah.
Ukraine. It's
Yeah.
an insanely different culture. I mean, that's something I get a lot out of like reading old Russian literature. Is this there is a lot of that classic Europeanism in it that we do understand, but then there's that, I don't want to call it Russianism because it includes other countries, but I guess in the case of Russian literature, I think that humorous website, The Toast, did a Russian novel article, and one of the things they said is, the theme of the Great Russian Novel is, it is very cold out and love does not exist also. And that is the feeling that you get from reading this stuff. Even these Ukrainian ambulance stories, I get that sense of just unrelenting hardship. Werner Herzog did that movie. Was it called Happy People? That was filmed in. It was in the Arctic Circle. I think it might have been Siberia. I can't remember, but he talks about just the people who live there. Either indigenously or
Yeah.
the very early European
People who live in the taiga.
The taiga people, exactly. So that's not exactly the same thing as we're seeing here in Ukraine, but there is definitely kind of an Eastern Bloc feel to this stuff that is so good and just so different. As far as I know, Xena never did anything with this stuff. I mean, in 2009, she didn't want anybody to talk about it,
right?
But it has been archived. But I don't think she ever turned this into a book or anything. But I mean, on the other hand, how would we even hear about it?
Sure. Yeah, it could have been. Maybe she got a European magazine article or something cool like that.
Yeah.
but it will definitely be included with the episode. It is a very text dense link. So there is quite
Yeah.
a bit to explore in there. That is just pure transcription. So that's pretty cool. A good deep dive for people that are interested in a little bit more of this madness.
So can I recommend a follow up?
Absolutely.
So after you read that, go try
Yeah.
driving your car in second gear for like a good 30 minutes, maybe like 3 a.m. It's fucking fun. It's just a good
Yeah,
fucking time.
yo, for real.
I only drive manuals. All of my cars have been manual, so I'm a big.
Low gear.
I just assume it's hard to
in
do
the
that.
rear somewhere.
I endorse it. I really do. Once you've experienced that control of the vehicle, it's kind of hard to go back to automatic.
Something very intimidating about a large Eastern European man who never stops his car.
No.
Right, and he's completely obliterated from schnapps and Phenazepam.
Yeah. And other people's lives are in his hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of food in those stories. There's more eating than I usually see in drug stories. That sort of Eastern European sausages and cheese and soup, and
Oh man,
they're always eating when they're
I want it.
out there too.
Yeah.
We don't really have a big food culture here for drugs except for weed. I mean, weed is that's
Yeah,
food drug.
Yeah, I barely.
I was gonna say, yeah, weed, and even certain types of alcoholic incorporate like food into their sort of passive
alcohol,
processes.
definitely, yeah.
I feel like these dudes are just eating because like they're what are essentially like EMTs, right? They're probably just sitting around waiting in between assignments. I'd be getting hella late night snacks in that situation, especially with all the good late night Eastern European or European food that they would have, hopefully over there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of any drugs I would want to like close my list out on. I think like acid and I don't know, maybe DMT once before I die, but like closer towards the die end of things. Just so it's like
well, once you get old, once you get
Don't you
past a
get some
certain age,
DMT
it's
for
like all
free at
bets
some
are
point?
off.
yeah, like
Yeah, Michelle.
I think that's literally when you die.
yeah, we wrote
I think
about
that's
this.
every
a little
human's
bit.
one dose of free DMT.
Yeah, I was about to say we literally wrote this into a comic, which is that this is a DMT induced experience that you see as the light of the end of the tunnel. You know, it's your death. I'm gonna guess it's pretty exciting, but also probably a bit of a bummer because you're gonna die. But you know, depending on whether you're a theist or not, maybe you'll have less worries
All right, I
going
got a
into
couple
that.
of.
But
I got another
that's the only
favorite,
high I worry about.
here for you. First, I'd recommend on my drug list melatonin. It's good for sleeping. Don't take a high dose. You want to stay around 1 to 2 milligrams, so cut those pills up. They really sell you a really inappropriate dose amount. You always have crazy dreams, get really sweaty, so cut it down.
Get those fucked up melatonin dreams.
That's true. They sell it in much.
I don't know why it feels like a waste of.
Correct.
I don't understand the marketing behind it, or maybe the dreams are like, so people are like, I like that.
People just think for drugs more is better, so they see the 2 bottles on the shelf and they're like, should I get 1 milligram or 10 milligram? And they get 10. But yeah, it's all of the research on melatonin is with like 1 milligram doses. And
did I miss the DIY
that
segment about Phenazepam earlier when I wasn't here?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
The DIY part is you order it from the internet.
Oh, okay.
Make your own
The DIY part was
paper
distribution
solutions.
The whole thread,
and then sell it yourself.
The whole thread is people DIYing every single dose of Phenazepam they get.
Yeah,
very much.
There's
no dealers.
Themselves.
They're ordering it from websites.
Composting.
Get in, Jesse. I've made 10 milligrams, and now I don't know whose Benjamin's pants are. Sort of shit.
So the postscript for this is that on November 23rd, 2009, Cascading Style Sheet started a new topic in the Crackhead Clubhouse. Topic regarding forums member CSS. Body of post. Some of you here may have known of forums user Cascading Style Sheet and seen some of his posts regarding the use of the drug Phenazepam. Using too much of the drug could cause blackouts and unexplainable behaviors among even the most cautious people, as you are aware. Concern began to grow for him as he would begin to forget days at a time, and his behavior became more and more erratic. No one knew who might come of this, and we were reluctant to intervene. Many days ago, another member, Bukaki, was also found dead. My brother disappeared on Thursday, 23rd GMT, was found early next morning face down, drowned in a puddle in a Burger King parking lot, so I decided to write this. You should all excessive caution when using this drug, as its effects are not entirely known. Brothers are dying left and right, and yet use of this drug continues. All I ask is to be careful with yourselves and stay safe. Lives do not need to be lost to this drug. Let me say one thing in closing: stay safe and read between the lines. Thank you. User was banned for this post.
Oh my god.
Now, if you are reading this post on your screen and notice that there are a lot of interesting line breaks, every one of those sentences that I just said will exist on a different line break and start with specific letters. These letters are S, U, C, K, M, Y, B, A, L, L, S.
Oh my god.
CSS is not dead. He is trolling.
God.
So
What an insanely like oh, what a thing to cook up if
Yep.
you're that guy, if you're
Yep.
CSS. Like what a thing.
The first two replies are, this has been a pretty tough couple of months. Take it easy, all of you guys. RIP. Second post, CSS Brew and my friend Keith this week so far. I fucking hate the winter. So people are falling for it.
Yeah.
Like they really
Yeah.
think he's dead because people keep fucking dying in
Well,
TCC.
because it's believable. I was about to say.
Yeah,
There's precedent and
that's the thing.
and also these people are continuously like the whole of TCCC is people or TCC is people going, yeah, my buddy died, and then a bunch of other people going, well, stay safe out there, everybody, and nobody actually,
Condolences.
and nobody actually like
Holy
doing anything preventative. Just a million like stay safe out there's, and and the condolences and the like. It's like all these dudes think they're invincible, and when one of them dies, none of them look up and go, oh, that could be me. They all go, oh, that's the guy that guy's an outlier. It's nuts. It's nuts.
Anyway, people eventually start posting, there's a hidden message, you guys. You've really been taken in this time. And yeah, so I think he was banned for this. And then there's a difference on something awful between banned, where you can't post anymore, but you can reactivate your account by paying another $10, and perma-banned, where you have to make a
You're
whole
just out.
new account. Yeah, so CSS does not have a good rap sheet. He has been banned and probated quite a bit. So that, and it pretty much like petered out. That's kind of how threads go on forums. There's usually no,
Yeah.
big
There's no big inciting moment.
There's no grand end to the Juice thread.
No.
People just kind of walked away from it, or presumably stopped posting about it because they're too juiced out.
I have not heard about Phenazepam recently. I don't know if anybody
No.
uses it anymore.
I only hear people bring it up in the context of this thread.
Yeah.
For the most part. Yeah. I don't doubt you could find it and get it. I don't doubt you could find a different drug forum where people are talking about it, but it certainly seems like, maybe something to the degree of this thread becoming a little bit of an online whatever you want to call it, kind of a shared experience of people laughing at it, people not laughing at it, the fact that we're all still talking about it here on this podcast, maybe that itself has been somewhat of a preventative thing for people that would have
Don't go that
tried
far,
the
buddy.
juice. Yeah, what I'm saying is maybe the people that would have potentially tried it instead found this thread and went,
Mhm.
ooh.
Yeah, there is that. There is
Like
that.
there is that level of it
I
being
think
like,
it's
if I had previously been half and half on it, I certainly would know what my decision was after reading all these experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't checked, but maybe this has got some good SEO for Phenazepam. Maybe if you
That's
Google
actually, yeah.
Phenazepam, maybe it pops up. There's one more uh, drug cop story that I really like about the guy in
Oh, sure.
Louisiana who was dealing with Phenazepam users. He says, and this is K Lobstar on Twitter. He says a soldier on our base went missing after ordering hundreds of dollars worth of Phenaz, and when we finally found him, he had dug himself a World War II style entrenched fighting position in the national forest nearby and was missing 2 fingers.
Right off with the shovel, I bet.
Woo!
the war never
Those
ended for
fingers,
me.
those fingers
More
just couldn't
speed.
stick around.
Holy
He had to keep going.
Faster reaction time with the shovel.
yeah.
It does seem like one of these things that has been known for a while. You know, it's
Yeah.
covered across
The
different,
article at least spanning last
like,
decade,
I guess,
since
decades,
2011.
like,
Some of
every
the
now
early
and
ones.
then. Right, exactly. But clearly usage is not wide enough to elicit any type of, you know, except in small cases like Louisiana, to elicit any type of actual outlaw in it.
Oh yeah. Uh that's the weird thing. Beyond our obviously the last 4 years onward is the synthesis of all technology towards its worst end. What's interesting is I immediately think of what at least the timeline I'm given here, I immediately think of bath salts after
Right.
that, and then basically from there the large scale doling out of oxy and basically painkillers becoming a massive problem pretty much everywhere. Uh, I mean, yeah, mapping it to society at large and not thinking of it as a weird. Uh, it seems more like a subculture issue that has its own sort of half life. It's interesting now seeing, I guess, DIY drug culture. Uh, yeah, again, being used for like a defined clinical end with good outcomes, and then in insanely destructive uh, components like we see here. And I mean, I almost sort of wonder like what the new permutations will be. And
I mean, there's always chemicals being made in labs that other people are trying to figure out what are the legal ones to order.
yeah,
What are the good ones that are, you know, medically available but not crazy known as street drugs, etc.
yeah,
Well, there's a Four Loco type drink called Joose I see here.
Oh, right. That is, yeah. I mean, I
There's
think that's the only other thing to use the name.
a streamer called the Juice, and it looks like uh an indie brewery company has made a pale ale called the Juice.
I mean that's the cultural milestones you can only get after that sort of thread.
It is
Uh,
funny. It is funny. I do wonder if the person who named the fucking Four Loco variant had any clue as to what he was naming it after.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much cachet
This-
this
I mean, it
has.
is just like it's not hard to just spell juice, you know, like
Right.
in a dumb way, right,
Mhm.
for marketing purposes. So there's always that. But it is like, you know, I'm not saying Four Loco is anywhere near a benzo, but it was certainly something with that cultural cachet of this thing will fuck you up and you will not remember what you did.
Mhm.
Apparently, the next phase of that was them taking out like the supplemental crap, right?
They got the
Wasn't that
No,
part of it?
it's the caffeine.
juice.
You can no longer
Caffeine.
make Yeah, you can no longer like they quite literally do not make them like they used to. You can't get
What
the
is because
caffeinated
of
alcohol beverages.
the way the caffeine activated it? It probably entered your bloodstream faster. Is that right?
I mean, it's classic mixing upper and downers, and
Mm.
realistically, it was due to a number of college students, I think, who had abused the drink, and obviously bad things happened from there. That was what incited the law to pass. Because before that, no one cared. No one. I mean,
It's kind of
you know,
silly. I mean, I think it's just
I
basically a
agree.
vodka Red Bull in a can, right?
Literally, yes.
That's it.
The advent of caffeinated alcoholic drinks obviously has been around for a while. It was just when we started packaging them in a can and
Mhm.
selling them as very, giant cans, admittedly, like 24-ounce motherfuckers that are like 11% alcohol, and selling them to college students. That it
Yeah.
became something noticeable to the FDA, let's say.
Yeah.
So again, that's kind of an issue of like, if X% more people were tripping out on phenazepam, we would have the FDA involved in something like this. But because
Yeah.
it is just this seemingly pretty small sample size, I think that's why why it's just not heavily enforced, I would guess.
Yeah. Well, all right. To sort of wrap it up tonight, it's been great thinking about people destroying their bodies, their minds, several bones,
Several
many
fingers.
many relationships in their lives, becoming deeply alienated and in some cases dead. Uh, I think I think these things shouldn't be mapped to larger overarching social phenomena outside of I don't know, maybe the more general thought that when the outside world isn't something you can control, boy howdy, can you try to control and tame that within your own sphere. Uh, in this case, just your drug use and extrapolating that, um, engaging with that with others, and just going on, going on off. And Christ, uh, becoming a drug dealer. I guess it's the scope of this is very hard to understand for me, but uh, just smoke something normal like weed. Just do that. If it doesn't work for you, you'll never have any
Or
of these very interesting
you
stories.
also you don't have to also be
Or die.
if you're a drug
Uh,
dealer, at
one
least
person's
don't
opinion.
use it because then you're just a merchant because it's legal. So if you're just selling it,
Yeah,
it's 7-day business.
As Tony
that's just drop shipping,
Montoni
baby.
has said,
Maybe you've
don't
all
get
heard of
high in
this
your
drug
own
though.
supply.
Life.
Uh,
Kids, live life to the fullest.
yeah,
No, go on. Clearly, you're excited. You have a lot to say about life.
Live every
Sell me
day
on
like
it.
it's not your last. Just be kind of normal. Be in the middle. Don't take too much.
Be normal. Just fucking
Just be normal.
just chill out.
Just
Just shut the fuck
Starbucks
up.
workers
Just sit there.
screaming at Connor O'Malley. Be normal.
all right.
I
You
say
motherfuckers.
every day I log in and I see my Twitter notifications and that's all I think. Can you just be normal? Just be normal.
People need to
Just be
chill
normal.
out.
Just do normal drugs. Have a very boring, inconsequential life. Like maybe make small talk with someone while you're buying groceries.
Mhm.
Do not put a single bullet into the chamber of a 6-shooter, Yosemite Sam style, and spin it around and like fire it at a wall. Don't do that.
Mm-mm.
I was about to say, what Yosemite Sam cartoons have you been watching where he does Russian roulette to himself?
Look, man, they rebooted it again. It goes places.
Yosemite's, they did him Yosemite Sam style.
Yeah. And yeah, just do normal drugs. Don't do scary drugs.
That's a good way to
Just
leave
be
it.
normal. Don't do crack. Don't do crack cocaine. Many
We
people
don't
will
judge
ask
you if you do.
many
But
people will
it's not
ask you
actionable
to.
advice.
Firm no. On that note, as always, we got Jake, we got Ruben, and Eliza Gager. I'm Michelle Perez. Don't smoke crack. And this has been Working on It.
That's it.